just export the PDF now. Oh, export PDF. Here, yeah? Midday. Good afternoon and thank you for coming. And today I'll talk about, well, Zabbix obviously, and we'll talk about maybe some past of Zabbix and what we are working right now and maybe the future of Zabbix. But before I start, let me introduce myself. My name is Alexei Vladishev. I am an architect and product manager, also author of Zabbix. I'm working on Zabbix since 1997 or 1998. So currently, well, I'm technical man, so I'm doing lots of technical decisions. Currently, actually responsible for the architecture and the full roadmap of Zabbix. So again, my talk today will be about the kind of the historical view on Zabbix first. We will have a look at the past to see what kind of technical decisions were made in the past, and then I will tell you more about the coming features of Zabbix 3.0 and also some things that I would like to improve in Zabbix later on. Because I often go to the conference, you may get impressions that I'm the only one who is working on Zabbix, yeah? But it's not true, absolutely. So we have a team of people. We have 30 people working in 3 offices. We have one office in Riga, in Latvia, Lithuania, Europe. We have one office. We have an office in Tokyo, and also the new office in New York. So most of our developers are located in Riga. And actually, some people asking me, you're doing free software. This is a software free. You go to our website, you download our software, and use absolutely for free. So how do you survive? Yeah. So we provide the services. We provide different types of services. Actually, we follow in this respect very much a Red Hat model, the business model. And I really happy that we have a very active Zabbix community, well, in many different countries, including Brazil. So thank you very much for this. So what do? We develop a monitoring system, Zabbix, which is a free free open source. Again, why it's important to have a kind of a free software is because this is, if the software is free, you may analyze the source code. You may be absolutely 100% sure that what the software vendor advertises exactly that's what software is doing. Yeah, so this is really, really important. And actually, Zabbix is not limited only to monitoring of IT services like servers, networks, and applications. It also could be used for other purposes, for example, for environmental monitoring, for monitoring of the temperature, humidity, for monitoring data gathered from sensors, or maybe for Internet of Things applications. And also, we are quite really fanatical about the quality of the product. I will talk about quality a little bit later. We have some issues in this respect, but still we are always thinking how to improve the quality of Zabbix, and also we are thinking how to make Zabbix easier to use for our users. Yeah, easier to upgrade, easier to maybe, well, just to maintain on a daily basis. So this is really, really important for us. Let's have a look at the past. So it's all started maybe in 1997 or 1998, and at that point of time I made just a number of decisions, and some of decisions were related to the choice of development tools of languages. So actually I selected the C language for all critical development, for development of the server, Zabbix proxy, and Zabbix agent. It's all written in C language. Then I selected PHP as a language for web front-end development. And also, I decided to use relational SQL databases for storage of historical data and also for the storage of configuration data. So if we have a look at the C language, so what is a C language? C language, if you have developers in this room, so C language is a very low-level language. For example, Linux kernel is being developed in a C language. So you can write very efficient code. You can write code which would consume absolute minimum of CPU resources and memory resources. And actually, C language, to some extent, it delivers the Java promise, the promise of the Java language. You write code once and you run it everywhere, basically. So you have C code, you may compile it on one platform, on another platform, on another platform. If you write in a good way, it is possible. So actually, we use exactly the same code base for Linux, I don't know, BSD, HPX, AX, Solaris, as well as Windows, yeah? And of course, due to the fact that the C language is very low level, of course, we have some issues. And one issue is that its development is slower. Of course, we don't have so good level of abstraction in the C language. That's why it takes some time to develop some features. And also, we may face some potential problems with memory management related things, like some pointers, what else, locks, and these things related to memory management and to IPC communications, for example. The PHP language is absolutely different. It's kind of a different universe. The PHP is interpreted language. It's really easy to start writing PHP code. And also, what I personally, PHP is a perfect language. Don't get me wrong, but what I personally don't like about PHP, it's dynamic typing. And because of the nature, because of its dynamic typing, you may compare or I don't know, integers to strings, strings to integers, with objects, arrays. It's not well, it's not so good. So some level of discipline is required to write a good PHP code. And because of the fact that it's interpreted language, some problems appear during runtime. You do lots of testing, you think that your application works fine, but at the runtime you get some issues. The SQL backend. So you may run Zabbix with a number of backends. We support MySQL, we support Postgres, we support Oracle, DB2, and SQLite. And the relational databases have very nice set of features. First of all, they guarantee they have transactions. Transactions are really, really important, and transactions really they contribute to data integrity very much. And also the data integrity rules which are built into the storage engine itself. And as a result of this, all information which we keep in a Zabbix database is consistent. That's very, very nice. But of course, with SQL languages, we may have some issues. The one issue is the scalability. We may scale SQL engine to deliver maybe 50,000 of transactions per second. But if you'd like to scale up to 100 or 1 million of transactions per second, it's not easy anymore. It's not easy. So maybe you can scale for read operations, but you cannot scale for write operations using kind of normal SQL-based database engines. Okay, and if you have a look at the size of the binaries of Zabbix, I think you will be surprised. Because, for example, I don't know, my laser, okay, it's here. So, for example, the Zabbix server binary, the size of the server binary is just a little bit more than 1 megabyte. The size of the Zabbix agent is a little bit more than 300 kilobytes. And remember that Zabbix server is the core of Zabbix. It has all business logic built in. It collects data, it sends notifications, it detects problems, it does absolutely everything, and it all fits in a little bit more than 1 megabyte of binary. And this is all thanks to use of C language. And we don't have much dependencies, actually. So we may depend on MySQL library, maybe NetSNMP, some other few libraries, and that's it. So, architecture, what's good? I think that the separation of logic in Zabbix is quite good. So we have quite well separated data collection, problem detection, visualization API. Also, Zabbix is a multi-processor application. So basically, you run Zabbix server, and you can see that Zabbix server actually would fork a number of processes. Could be tens, or maybe hundreds, or maybe even thousands of processes, depending on the size of your IT environment. So it basically scales quite well to number of CPU cores you have. And also, thanks to selection of the SQL, the data and the history is always in a consistent state. And we also do a number of optimization techniques on Zabbix server, Zabbix proxy side. The one is in-memory cache. So we are trying to keep information in memory just to decrease number of queries to the database, because these queries normally very heavy thing. Yeah? So we are trying to keep historical data in memory. We are trying to keep configuration data in memory, and it contributes to performance very, very much. We also use another technique which is called kind of bulk operations or mass operations. So instead of generating a number of insert statements which insert new information to history tables or updates or deletes, we are trying to combine them and then execute these hundreds or thousands of operations as one big operation. And it works in a much faster way. So if we have a look and if compare the situation now with what we had more than 10 years ago, what kind of changes we may see? First of all, if we have a look at the choice of languages, we still use a C language and we still use a PHP language. That's fine. As for development procedure, as the way how we develop Zabbix, we actually made a very, very long way. Now we have a very, very strict development procedure. All development is starting with a specification, and all specifications are available to our community. So you may go to zabbix.org website, and you could see specifications, kind of more or less formal specifications, the technical documents for all new features we are developing or will develop in the future. Okay, so this is very nice. And so we start with the specifications, then goes development, then goes code review, always, yeah, independent code review, independent testing, documentation, and only when we have documentation, code review, and tests ready, we tell, okay, this feature is ready. It's ready to be committed to trunk, yeah. So this becomes part of Zabbix. Of course, we have well-defined coding guidelines. Again, coding guidelines available on our web page. Just again, go to zabbix.org or search Zabbix guidelines, and you can find guidelines for both C language and the PHP language. So these guidelines are very well defined, and if you'd like to submit a patch to Zabbix, you have to follow guidelines. We use a continuous integration platform, and we extensively use different static analyzers, especially to analyze C code. So we'd like to catch any problems as soon as possible. So, and what are the challenges we have now? And we have a few of them. First of all, because we use a different stack of technologies, we use a C code on the Zabbix server side for agent and proxy development, and we use a PHP, which is completely different. For the front-end development, we face some issues. One is that basically in a team of Zabbix, we have two sub-teams. One knows C very well, and another knows PHP very well, and we have a few people who knows both PHP and C, and they know how to develop front-end code and the back-end code. And this leads to a slower development because in order to develop a feature, a bigger feature requires changes on the back-end side and the front-end side. So we have to involve people from both worlds, from the C developers and the PHP developers. And I think because of this, there is some slowdown. And also, the PHP started in 1998, the development of the PHP front-end. So we have quite a significant amount of historical PHP code. And this is our current challenge. I think that C side, what we have on Zabbix server side, Zabbix proxy, and agent side, in a very, very good shape right now. And our challenge is to have the quality, to bring the same quality to the front-end side. Okay, and actually this is how code review looks like, I think, in our office. So this is the C code review, and maybe the PHP code review. We always have much more issues with the PHP code, unfortunately. Okay. Present. So what we are working on right now? Of course, it is Zabbix 3.0. Zabbix 3.0 is the next major release. It is so-called LTS release, so it will be supported for 5 years. That's why we are very careful about selection of features which we would like to put into 3.0. We'd like to make it as stable as possible. If you ask me a question, so what features are coming in Zabbix 3.0? Actually, the roadmap is available. It's publicly available. You may just go to our website, zabbix.org, or just find in the search engine Zabbix roadmap, and I think you'll find this table very, very quickly. So basically, the table is a list of all features we plan for Zabbix 3.0. It also has a link to original issue, and it also has a link to a specification. So as I told you before, for each individual feature request, we have some details, and also we have the specifications, the technical specification. So you may go and have a look how this particular feature will be implemented in a very, very low-level details. So the interface. Let's have a look how Zabbix interface looks like. This is Zabbix 1.8 interface, okay? Zabbix 2.0, Zabbix 2.2. Can you spot the difference? Zabbix 2.4. Okay, so to make things easier, everything in one screen. And actually, in 2009, actually, well, 6 years ago, or yeah, 6 years ago, we made very little progress when it comes to the front end, to the interface. And it's really a shame. Yeah, we put so much attention to server side. We put so much attention to proxy and the features of Zabbix agent. So actually, we forgot about Zabbix front end. Yeah, it's really a shame. So there is virtually no difference. Of course, we made some, it's not like exact copy, yeah, but of course we made some changes and improvements on Zabbix front-end side for the last, well, 6 years. But in general, the layout of the front end, the kind of underlying technologies were almost exactly the same, yeah? So actually it's time to fix it, or it's time to start fixing it. In Zabbix 3.0, well, it's, I don't know if you see or not, this is a current trunk, the latest development. If you don't see it, I have a brighter, theme for you. So we will deliver it in a dark one and a white one. And actually, this is just the beginning. So we are constantly making different improvements to the layout of the Zabbix front end. Actually, we'd like to make it as simple as possible. We'd like to display only relevant information on Zabbix front end. We'd like layout to be scalable to different sizes of your monitors, of different screens. So it should work nicely on, for example, retina displays. So Zabbix, the front end of Zabbix 3.0 will get, I think, much cleaner and a better look. For example, this is the result of the global search. So everything is for me, it's very nice. Yeah. So for me, it's very clean, and it doesn't have any kind of thing that distracts you from essential information. What you really need to know. And actually, this is only visible part. So this is only visible part of changes we are making in Zabbix 3.0. Under the hood, there are much more changes. I told you before about historical code. And we have a big portion of historical code in Zabbix. Now we are switching to MVC. We are doing a more modular design for Zabbix PHP side. Now, I think we will try to introduce ability to create your own pages. So if you have a coding skills, you may create your own page and integrate this page into the global menu. Also, there will be ability to extend existing pages. So, for example, if you miss some information in, I don't know, maybe in the list of hosts, you'd like to add a new column to the list of hosts. What you do, you just copy our code, you do some, extensions, you do some modifications, enhancements, and then, okay, you'll get what you really need without changing core code of Zabbix. And in Zabbix 3.0, I'm really looking forward to introduce kind of initial API or a plugin structure to extend Zabbix, to extend dashboard widgets, so that users could create their own widgets. If you don't, if something is missing in Zabbix, you'd like to have a special widget, maybe some graph or maybe information displayed in a kind of interesting, visually interesting way. Okay, you have developers, you can do it, and you integrate it into Zabbix. Another nice feature of Zabbix 3.0 is it's about encryption. Yeah, so encryption and authentication, it will be supported out of the box. It will be based on TLS version 2, and there will be support of both certificate-based and the PSK-based encryption and authentication. And we have, and also from the very beginning, we decided to select, we decided to support 3 underlying libraries: OpenSSL, GNU TLS, or a Polar SSL. So you have a choice. If you don't trust for some reason, I don't know, OpenSSL, okay, go with GNU TLS. You don't trust GNU TLS, go with OpenSSL. You don't trust any of these two, okay, go with the Polar SSL. I think now security is kind of a hot topic, and people are trying to get maybe more flexibility when it comes to security. So we decided from the very beginning support 3 vendors, 3 underlying libraries. So in order to upgrade from a non-secure setup to a secure setup, you need to follow 3 basic steps. First of all, for example, and by the way, talking about the security, talking about encryption and authentication, it will be supported everywhere for all components of Zabbix, for communication between agent and Zabbix proxy, agent and server, server and proxy, and so on. So it is everywhere. Now, in order to enable security, what you need to do, first you tell, for example, between Zabbix server and Zabbix proxy, you tell Zabbix server to accept both encrypted TLS and non-encrypted connections from Zabbix proxy. Then you configure Zabbix proxy and Zabbix server to use certificates or PSK or pre-shared keys. Okay, so now Zabbix server will start accepting both encrypted traffic and non-encrypted traffic from Zabbix proxy. Then you verify that everything is fine, encrypted traffic is accepted by Zabbix server, and you tell Zabbix server, okay, I'm not going to accept non-encrypted plain text traffic anymore. So this way, you may gradually upgrade from non-secure setup to a secure setup. First one proxy, then another proxy, another, then all your agents if you need a better security for your agents. What else? The personal resources. In Zabbix 3.0, we'll implement so-called personal resources. So any user of Zabbix frontend could create screens, maps, and slideshows, kind of a personal for his personal use, visible only to one user, to himself. And also there will be ability to share those resources with other users or user groups. So that's what is coming in Zabbix 3.0, and this is kind of big feature for us. We haven't started development yet. We even don't have a specification for this feature yet. And actually this is a big feature which actually kind of affects the plans with the release of Zabbix 3.0. What else? In Zabbix 3.0, there will be a versioning for XML files. And why it is important? Because if we have a version of XML file, for example, if we know that this XML file was produced by, and what is XML files, by the way? XML files are used for import-export. So you may, for example, export a template from Zabbix and import this template on another Zabbix deployment, for example, or share this template with other users. Okay? And if you don't have a version in the XML template, you don't know what structure is expected, because one version of Zabbix may produce one set of fields. In other version of Zabbix there will be a different set of fields. So now we introduce a versioning, and now we know exactly the rules for validation. We know exactly what structure is expected. Okay, and also we will maintain, of course, the backward compatibility. So if you have XML files from Zabbix 2.0 or Zabbix 2.2 or Zabbix 2.4, they will be absolutely fine. They will work absolutely fine with Zabbix 3.0. So they will be automatically converted to one version and then automatically converted to XML 3.0. We also introduced so-called context-specific macros. This is kind of a special type of user macros we already have, but with a small addition of the context. So instead of having a macro like a minimum disk space, we add so-called the context, like min disk space TMP. So for TMP file system, we expect minimum free disk space 50%. Minimum free disk space for DB file system is 30%. And the minimum disk space for all other file system, it will be at 10%. Okay? So how it would work? It would work also very nice with low-level discovery macros. So for example, if we discovered a file system /home, okay, and we may use this macro as a threshold, so min disk space home, and then Zabbix will try to find the value for min disk space home. It will scan the list of all user macros we have. Okay, it's TMP. No, it's not TMP. It's not a /db. And it falls back to min disk space, which is 10%. Maybe it's a little bit kind of difficult to understand right now what kind of advantages it may bring, but it really brings lots of advantages when it comes to automation, when it comes to a kind of a new level of flexibility for low-level discovery we already have. In Zabbix 3.0, we also introduced so-called ready for business checks. Why I call them ready for business? So suppose you're a bank and you have multiple branches around the country. You know that the bank branch opens at, for example, at 8 a.m. And before 8 a.m., you'd like to know for sure that your infrastructure is working fine. That ATM, well, okay, ATM should work 24/7 anyway. But all workstations are working fine, all equipment you rely on, like maybe printers and the level of toners in your printers and all other equipment is okay. So if your branch opens at 8, you'd like to verify maybe at 7:45 that everything is up and running and it's ready for normal daily operations, okay? So what we introduce in Zabbix, now it's possible to tell Zabbix, please execute this check at a specific time. Okay? So you tell Zabbix, please execute this check starting from 9 every 2 hours. And Zabbix will do this check at exactly this time, at 9, at 11, at 1 p.m., 3 p.m., and so on. And we have a very nice level of flexibility here. For example, okay, you may tell Zabbix, execute these checks at working days only at 9 a.m. Or at first day of every month at 9:30. At first day of every month at 9:30 if it's Monday. So we really introduced a very great level of flexibility when it comes to this new kind of as a scheduling for Zabbix. In Zabbix 3.0, we also introduced the manual execution of a housekeeper. And let me remind you, so what is a housekeeper? Housekeeper is a process which removes older information from historical tables. If you configure Zabbix to keep history for, say, 1 month and the trends data for, well, 1 year, so the housekeeper is a process which would remove older information you don't need anymore. And sometimes you want to remove this information maybe at night time when it won't affect your daily monitoring very much. Okay, now you may tell Zabbix there is a new command line parameter accepted by Zabbix server which is called housekeeper execute, and this is -R. It stands for runtime control. Okay, you execute Zabbix server housekeeper execute, and the housekeeper process will be executed. And the combination with the cron tab, you may the schedule execution of the housekeeper anytime you want. What else? We introduce also low-level discovery, which will be based on the result of the SQL statement executed with some external database. So if you have some, I don't know, Oracle database, Microsoft SQL database, and you retrieve data from that database by executing any SQL statement you want, like select maybe list of table spaces from your external database, and then you use this information with low-level discovery to create items, triggers, graphs, and so on. You get list of table spaces. You'd like to monitor all these table spaces. You can do it You can do it now. So again, this is very nice addition to existing low-level discovery. What else? Also, there are many features. By the way, the first one is quite important. This is support of dependencies for trigger prototypes. I think this is one of the most requested and the most voted feature in our feature request tracker. Yeah. What else? Maybe the support of IPv6 for Java Gateway. Actually, Zabbix supported IPv6. Fully supported. I think we introduced support of IPv6 maybe 6 years ago or maybe 5 years ago, and the Java Gateway was the only process we didn't support IPv6. Now it supports. So now we 100%, all Zabbix components 100% support IPv6. So you can use Zabbix in IPv6 only environment with the Java Gateway. And some other changes, new filtering for triggers top 100. What else? Yeah, so another feature is, again, related to low-level discovery. Now you could retrieve information from different SNMP tables using one discovery rule. Okay, please have a look at our documentation. It's all described there in a good level of details. Okay, so you may ask when Zabbix 3.0 will be released. Well, yeah, it's a good question. I'd like to know as well. It was planned initially in May this year. Of course, since I'm here, I'm talking about Zabbix 3.0. Zabbix 3.0 is not released yet. And I would expect that maybe we'll manage to release Zabbix 3.0 in September this year. Okay, we still have some things to develop. We still have some things to finish. And the future. Let me share some thoughts and ideas about where Zabbix development is coming, and what features I'd like to see, and what improvements I'd like to see in the future releases of Zabbix. First of all, the web interface. I think it will be our primary focus for the next Zabbix 3.2 and Zabbix 3.4. We really need to put much more effort to make our front end more interesting, more kind of more user-friendly. So I am not happy about the current navigation. So when you have the menu, if you're a user of Zabbix, you know there is a menu. You're navigating through the menu. There are too many clicks. You go from a configuration to monitoring. You click, then click again. Then you select host. You select host group. It's not efficient anymore. Yeah, so it's absolutely not efficient. And one user from Zabbix conference, Lucas, he actually described his experience like click till death. Yeah, so clicking is just maybe too much clicking for some people. And also information in Zabbix frontend is not very well interconnected. So you have information about host, but there is no easy way to go directly to a graphs of that host, or maybe to see some IT services related to this host. information is kind of very, very disconnected. And also the drop-downs, this is a control, you know, when you select a group of hosts and when you select a host from the list of hosts, it's absolutely not efficient when you have a large number of hosts or network devices. Say you have more than 1,000 or maybe 10,000 of devices, this control doesn't scale, absolutely not. Yeah, so it consumes too much memory, it consumes too much CPU resources just for rendering. Yeah, so it's not good. Okay, so how to make it better? I think, of course, we have to think all the time about a user experience, how to make our interface better for users. So it will be easier for users to navigate, easier for users to get information out of Zabbix front end. And I think we should move more to kind of object-oriented navigation when you select object, for example, a host or a host group, and all information about the host or a host group or item is one click away. So you select item, you see immediately, I don't know, for example, all the graphs related to this item for different periods of time, maybe some triggers associated with this item, maybe events generated by triggers associated with this item, and so on. So it should be kind of you select some object and you see everything about this object, including configuration. Okay, you have some host, you click on the host, you can see information, and also you may configure, you may do some configuration changes. And the performance of the Zabbix front end is okay, but it depends, of course, how big is your environment. So for environments having 5,000, 10,000, maybe 20, 30,000 of hosts, performance is not acceptable to me. So we need to make much better with the development work to improve performance, and performance of Zabbix front end depends on performance of the API, of course. And talking about the API can be very slow. If you ever tried to link one template to thousands of hosts, it just takes forever. It takes forever. So we have to do a better job of making API much faster. It just generates too much queries to the database. We don't have very strong validation for Zabbix API, and we have quite poor error reporting. You make API call, it fails for some reason, but it doesn't provide you details back why it failed. Okay, so for developers, it's really hard to find a reason why my API call, which looks like a nice one, doesn't work. So what really needs to be improved? I'd like to make it much faster. I think the reporting in Zabbix is quite poor. Yeah, we have so much data in Zabbix database about everything. historical data, trends, events, notifications, all the information we have, but we are unable to present this information in a good way. Yeah? And again, it's absolutely not good. We need to think how to present information to users, maybe in a graphical form, maybe in a form so that users would understand the correlation between the different events. We don't do it currently. And it's about real-time information, and also it's about analysis, longer-term analysis, maybe predictions, and so on. So. And nowadays, there are so many tools exist regarding visualization, and really, it's a shame we don't use these tools. I think it really needs to be changed as soon as possible. The scalability. I already told you that okay, we may scale Zabbix maybe to execute up to maybe 40,000 of checks per second, and it's possible, but I think this is a kind of current limit. And this limit comes from the underlying database engines we use. It's really, as I told you before, it's really hard to scale traditional SQL-based engines for this type of performance. And actually, the current level of Zabbix performance is absolutely fine if you have maybe, 10,000 of hosts or maybe even 100,000 of hosts. We have users using Zabbix with 100,000 of hosts. But of course, it depends on number of checks. So for a better level of scale, and also another problem we have is that the good level of scalability requires some special techniques like a table partitioning. If you have, for example, historical tables with, a few terabytes of history, you just have to use a table partitioning to make your database run faster. And it's not so easy to achieve high availability and redundancy, especially redundancy in case of using the SQL database engines. So I'd like to see that Zabbix would scale on the horizontal level. Okay, you put more servers, you get a better performance. And I'd like to separate historical data and operations, so that even if you have terabytes of data, it should not affect monitoring in any way. Okay, so you have some operational data. It could be even stored in the memory all the time. And you have some sort of data warehouse, database, or history with the terabytes of data, and it should not affect the real-time, the operations of Zabbix server, of your monitoring system, because it is what is important. And the performance of web interface, I would expect sub-second response time. So this is a goal, and we really need to go to this goal. API and plugins. So currently, you may extend Zabbix in a number of ways. For example, you may add your own checks to Zabbix agent. You may add your new checks to Zabbix server. You may have your plugins to extend the functionality of Zabbix agent and Zabbix server. You may have your own notification methods and so on. But what you cannot do right now, you cannot introduce your own trigger functions, for example. Okay? So we have some set of functions which comes out of the box, but if you'd like to add a new function, you have to change Zabbix code. It's not good. Also, there is no way to do some pre- and post-processing of incoming data. Even in a simple case, when you'd like to remove maybe the last character of the received data, you cannot do it. We do not provide a way for some plugin, for plugin infrastructure. And the dashboard widgets, which is really important, especially if we talk about a visualization and the way how to present data in a better way to Zabbix users. What else? And just a few slides and a few useful links. First one is support.zabbix.com. If you go to support.zabbix.com, you will find two projects there. One is list of all issues and bugs reported by Zabbix users, and another one is a tracker of all feature requests. So you can see the list of all feature requests, and what's important, you may vote on your favorite feature request. And actually, why it's important, because this way you can influence development and well, decision-making of Zabbix team. Because, for example, in Zabbix 2.4, we implemented 4 of top 5 most voted features. In Zabbix 3.0, we are going to implement again 4 of top 5 most voted features from Zabbix community. So please go, and if you think that this feature is really important for you, just vote for this feature. Another link, share.zabbix.com. We introduced it, I think, 2 months ago, and this is a place where community, Zabbix users, may share their templates, plugins, and all relevant information like how-tos about Zabbix. So if you have a nice template to monitor, for example, some Cisco device or a Juniper device, you'd like to share the template with other users, just go to the website and you may upload your template. And you also could find other templates which are contributed by other users. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Please follow us on Zabbix Twitter, and please go to our booth. We have our booth, and there are some nice giveaways for you waiting. Thank you. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, so please ask. Feel free to ask in English or Portuguese. I have a very nice translator with me. Okay. Ah. 10 minutes. No? Oh, really? Okay, maybe we have time for 1 or 2 questions. But anyway, afterwards, if you have more questions, please go to our booth. I will be there, and I will respond to all the questions. But I think... okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I was about to ask you later, but you already talked about the scalability and stuff. And what do you think about MongoDB or Couchbase for Zabbix on, I don't know, on the 4.0 version or something?
Well, I still need. Well, I don't want to go into kind of deep details, but I think the MongoDB is not a good choice for Zabbix time series data anyway. But of course, I have some sort of short list of different database, NoSQL database engines, which I'd like to test and see how they scale. Because in many cases, what we see on the kind of web pages and the technical papers of a different database engine is not the level of performance we really may get. Yeah. But of course, I'm aware of the NoSQL database engines, and I have already a short list of 5 engines to verify, to see how they work. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I think we have no time anymore. Thank you very much, and please come to our booth. I'll be there. Thank you.